Dear students, in this video on electromagnetic induction, we will study alternating current and some numericals based on them. So let us begin with the very idea of alternating current or voltage. See, alternating current or voltage continuously changes its direction and its magnitude periodically, like it reverses its direction continuously. So supposing if we have a circuit and an alternating source of current AC, the symbol used for AC is this, is connected to it, then for half the time the direction of current will be this one, and for the second half the direction of current will be reversed, and now the current will flow in opposite direction. So this happens continuously. For half cycle it is anti-clockwise, for the second half cycle it is clockwise, and the changes are sinusoidal according to sine wave. So now, how to produce it? Now, to produce alternating current or voltage, we require AC generator. And AC generator converts mechanical energy to electrical energy. Now, the principle. This AC generator is based on electromagnetic induction. And you know what electromagnetic is? So, let us look at the construction of an AC generator. So this AC generator consists of a coil. You can see here we have a coil made up of copper, insulated copper wire, and it is wound over a soft iron core. Here a soft iron block is placed or cylinder is placed, and the windings are made over this soft iron core. So this coil is called armature. The coil wound over soft iron core together makes an armature, and it is placed between strong magnets, north and south, as you can see, in uniform magnetic field like this, and the ends of coil are connected to slip rings R1 and R2. Now what are slip rings? Just have a look here. We have slip ring R1 and slip ring R2. One end, like you see, the end starting at end A passes through it without touching R2. It is connected to R1. And the other end, which is coming from this D side, it is directly connected to R2. And there is no connection between this wire coming from A1, AA to R2. Right? Now, the slip rings can also rotate with the armature. Here we have a shaft, as you can see, this is the axis, and about this axis, this coil can be rotated like this, right? And we have these brushes, contact brushes B1 and B2. B1 and B2 are carbon brushes. They are fixed and they are continuously in contact with ring R1 and R2. These are metallic rings. So the external circuit or external load is connected between carbon brushes B1 and B2. Whatever is connected here, it can be your household circuit, it can be a bulb, a fan, a refrigerator, or anything, maybe a housing complex or whatever. So this whole combination is AC generator. So let us look at its working now. Construction. As I have discussed, a coil called armature having large number of windings of insulated copper wire wound over laminated soft iron core, and it is rotated between poles of a strong magnet with constant angular velocity. The ends of coil are connected to slip rings R1 and R2, which are in contact with carbon brushes B1 and B2, and the external load is connected between B1 and B2, carbon brushes B1 and B2. So this is construction in brief, and now we will talk about the working. So for working, I have shown a diagram here. See, North Pole, South Pole. The magnetic field exists between them along this direction, and the coil ABCD is shown here. So initially, when the coil, when the plane of coil is perpendicular to this plane of paper, let us assume that the magnetic field exists in the plane of the paper from North Pole to South Pole, and the coil, the plane of coil is normal to plane of paper. That means the area vector of this coil is along the direction of the magnetic field. So just try to assume, imagine this thing. Now in such a situation, the magnetic flux linked with the coil is maximum, but if you have a look at it once again, see, magnetic field is along this, area vector is along this, and magnetic field. Now see, the side B, BC and AD will not cut magnetic field lines at all, and we are turning the coil this way. So in whatever position, BC and AD will not cut magnetic field lines. So they will not produce any induced EMF. Now think of this conductor AB. Now when this is placed perpendicular to plane of paper, then its velocity will be parallel to magnetic field B. This is the length of conductor, and this is the velocity of conductor, and this velocity is parallel to magnetic field B. So no EMF will be induced in it, and similarly in the opposite side, see, this is moving parallel to magnetic field B, and the opposite side CD is also moving parallel to or anti-parallel to B. So no EMF is induced whatsoever in this coil ABCD. So the EMF or induced voltage is 0, right? Now it is turning clockwise like this, and then this side AB reaches this side in the plane of paper, and side CD reaches this side in the plane of paper. Now at this situation, the direction of magnetic field is same, but the side AB is moving inwards perpendicular to this conductor, perpendicular to length of conductor and perpendicular to magnetic field. Now in this situation, you can see that BLV, all three are mutually perpendicular, so induced EMF is maximum. Similarly, in this also induced EMF will be maximum. Now let us try to find out induced current. Now using your right hand, we will use Fleming's right hand rule, and now extend your thumb, index finger and middle finger of right hand mutually perpendicular to each other. Your index finger is pointing along the direction of magnetic field, and the velocity is shown by the thumb, which is inwards. Then you can see that the direction of induced current is vertically downwards in the plane of the paper, right? So here the induced current is downwards. the induced current in AB is downwards, and in CD it is upwards. So, and there is no current in CD. So the direction of current is from D, C, B, A. Now see, let's see how we get this current in the conductor in the outside circuit. So for that, let's see external circuit. See, the current is traveling from D to C, okay, D to C to B to A, and then it is passing through this R2 a slip ring without touching it to R1, and it is in contact with brush B1, and through this this galvanometer, which is external circuit, we can also call it load, and it is following this path. So the path followed is anti-clockwise. In this load, the current is moving from down to upwards. So let's see what happens when it is further moved. See? Yeah. So we have discussed this part. Now let us discuss this part. So after taking half rotation, now the CD, which was here, it comes in the front. Now the coil is placed perpendicular to plane of paper, and magnetic field is in the plane of paper. So now again this CD is moving parallel to magnetic field, so no induced EMF, and BA is moving anti-parallel to magnetic field, so no induced EMF. So in this situation, the induced EMF is 0, you see. So we started with 0 induced EMF. At this situation here, the induced EMF is maximum, the induced current is maximum. Now in this situation, induced EMF has become 0. Now this CD will turn further, and this CD side comes to this side, and AB after taking half turn comes to this side. So let's see what happens here now. Now in this situation, the direction of magnetic field is this one only, and now the CD is moving inside perpendicular to B with velocity V. Now again BLV, the length of this conductor is say L, BLV are mutually perpendicular, and using your right hand, Fleming's right hand rule, the induced current is downwards, and in AB it is upwards, and you get maximum induced EMF and maximum current, but in opposite direction. Initially it was clockwise, as you can see, D, C, B, A, and now it is A, B, C, D. So the sense of current has changed. Initially it was going from B to A, now it is going, just have a look, it was going from B to A, now it is going from A to B, reverse. It was going from D to C, now it is from C to D. And so direction of current is reversed, and the induced EMF is maximum in this situation when velocity, magnetic field, and conductor are length of conductor are mutually perpendicular. So you get induced current and induced EMF in opposite direction and maximum. And let's see what happens in the okay. So now in this situation, the current is moving from A to B, and taking this path, it is moving from C to D, and at D it is connected to R2, and from R2 it is connected to brush B2, and from B2 it goes to external load or galvanometer, and it comes to B1, and from B1 it is connected to R1, then R1 is connected to A, and the circuit is complete. So now in external load, the current is coming from top to bottom downwards. In the previous half cycle, the current was upwards, and in this cycle it is downwards. So for half cycle, current is in one direction, and from this, for the second half cycle, the direction of current is reversed. So now let us have a look at it now. So now after this position, maximum EMF or current in opposite direction, it is further rotated, and now AB side, which was flat in the plane of paper, it has come up. AB is there and DC has gone down like this only, and in this situation the initial position is repeated, and we have taken a full rotation from 0 degree to 360 degree. So we get induced current and EMF which starts from 0, increases on one side, acquires maximum value at 90 degree, then becomes 0 at 180 degree, then becomes maximum in opposite direction at 270 degree, and after full one rotation it again becomes 0. And let us check how the variation is sinusoidal, as we have shown you like a wave. So let us look at its mathematical part now. Coil ABCD is rotated in magnetic field. The induced current given by Fleming's right hand rule for half cycle, that is 0 to T by 2, if T is the time period for complete rotation, then it is along DCBA as I have shown you, and in external circuit it passes through slip ring R1 to brush B1 to external load to brush B2 to R2 and back to the coil along DCBA. For the second half cycle, that is T by 2 to T, the sense of current is reversed. It is now along ABCD in coil, and in external load also the direction is reversed. So the external load gets current in opposite direction, and the output current or voltage is alternating. That means it is changing its direction twice in one complete rotation, right? So this is a brief description of working, and now let us look at its mathematical part. So the magnetic flux linked with the coil phi is given by NBA cos theta. You know this relation, that phi is equal to B dot A, and if it has n turns we multiply by n, and its magnitude is BA cos theta, where theta is angle between vector B and vector A, area vector A. So it is NBA, and the angle theta is equal to omega t, where omega t is angular velocity of rotation of coil. So you are familiar with this relation, that theta is equal to omega t, right? And now the relation for induced EMF is minus d phi by dt, Faraday's law, and minus, place the value of phi here, d by dt of NBA cos omega t, and take the constants outside, NBA comes out, and differentiation of cos omega t is minus sin omega t, and the omega t term is again differentiated with respect to time t. This is called function of function. So this omega t is again differentiated. Now the differentiation of omega t will be only omega because it is constant. So this omega also comes outside, and this minus multiplied gives you positive sign. So you get V is equal to NAB omega sin omega t. The induced EMF V is equal to NAB omega sin omega t. Now the maximum possible value of this induced EMF will be given when this sine omega t is 1, and that maximum induced EMF is NAB omega. It is also called peak voltage. Then instantaneous voltage is given by this. That means voltage at any time is given by this relation, V is equal to V naught, putting the value of NAB omega. Here V is equal to V naught sine omega t. And here you can see that the variations are according to this sine function. So the variations of voltage are sinusoidal. That is why we have shown you a sine wave, right? And if the resistance in the circuit is R, then the peak current will be peak voltage divided by resistance, or NAB omega divided by R. And instantaneous current will be equal to instantaneous voltage divided by resistance, or this becomes I is equal to I naught peak current into sine omega t. So the variations of current and voltage both are sinusoidal. The general relation for instantaneous AC voltage is V naught sine omega t, and this is the equation of AC current, alternating current. I is equal to I naught sine omega t. And you know that sine can be easily converted to cosine. So in place of sine omega t, we can have cos omega t also. This can be cos omega t also. Then also there are AC voltage and AC current. So let us look at their graphical variation here. When we are taking V is equal to V naught sine omega t and I is equal to I naught sine omega t, you can see that they are in same phase. They will become maximum together and minimum together. So they are in same phase of vibration. So let's see what we get now. So if this is voltage V, alternating voltage V, and then this is current. So you can see that when this V is 0, I is also 0, you see. And when this V becomes maximum at pi by 2, 90 degree, as you have seen, then the voltage and current become maximum together. And if you have a second look here at this point, see the angle through which it is rotated is 90 degree, which is pi by 2, and it is 1/4 of rotation. That is, time taken is T by 4, 1/4 of rotation. Then after half rotation, when angle is 180 degree or pi, or time period is half, then it becomes 0. What? The voltage as well as current become 0. Then after this, the direction of current and voltage both change, and at 270 degree, the current and or time 3t by 4, the current and voltage both become maximum but in opposite direction. So you see that, and at pi, at 2 pi, they both become 0. So from here till here, this is one complete rotation. For half rotation, the voltage and current are in one direction if we consider at positive. For the second half, the direction of current and voltage is reversed. So if you have a resistance, say, placed in a circuit with AC source, see the symbol for AC source is this one. Then for half cycle, direction of current will be this one, and for the second half cycle, the direction of current will be reversed, that is this one, and magnitude will change according to a sine wave or sinusoidal variations. Now let's see, what if the waves are represented by cos omega t? So sine and cos can be easily converted into one. So here, when time t initial position, or when theta is 0, you can see that here when time t is 0, V is maximum because cos 0 is 1. So here voltage is maximum, and at 90 degree it becomes 0, cos 90 is 0. At pi, cos pi is minus 1, so becomes maximum in opposite direction. And then at 270 it becomes 0 again. Then at 2 pi, the cos 2 pi is plus 1, so V also becomes maximum but in other direction. So here this is variation of voltage, and let us look at the variation of current also. So according to this, when V is maximum, I is also maximum. So here they both are maximum together, they become 0 together, maximum together but in opposite direction, then 0 together and maximum together in opposite direction. So from here to here, one time period is completed, you see. This is one complete rotation, right? And current and voltage are in same phase. They are in same state of vibration. That means they become maximum together, they become minimum together, and they are in same state of vibration. The symbol used for AC. And now, average or mean value of alternating current. So we have just seen that the alternating current is shown by this in one time period, if it is I. So for half time period it is positive. For second half period, this is T by 2, it is negative, and the total average will be 0. So there is no point taking average for one complete time period or one complete revolution. So we find out the average for only half of the time period. So we will find out the average for half cycle only, that is from time t is equal to 0 to t is equal to t by 2. So let's see how we define it. So in this half cycle, the current will make some charges pass through the circuit. You know that current is rate of flow of charges. Current is rate of flow of charges. So in place of this current, if we have a constant current, steady current, and that steady current sends the same amount of charge in this time only, half time period, then that steady current will be called average or mean value of alternating current. So that is the definition that you must understand. So let us look at it. Average or mean value of alternating current. It is equal to that steady current which, when passes through a circuit, the charge flowing in half of time period is equal to the charge flowing with actual AC in the same time, actual alternating current in the same time. So let's see how we work out. Now the relation for instantaneous current can be taken as I naught sin omega t, and you know that small amount of charge dq will be given by I dt. And we have to find out the charge flowing in half of time period. So the total charge will be integration of this term from 0 to t by 2. So q is equal to integration 0 to t by 2 I dt. Now put the value of I from this one. So you get q is equal to 0 to t by 2 I naught sin omega t dt. Now I naught is peak current, constant, take out, integration of sin omega t. Now integration of sin omega t is minus cos omega t, and for this omega t we get this constant in the denominator. So the integration of sin omega t becomes minus cos omega t upon omega, and the limits are 0 to t by 2. Now when we put the limits, see what we get. Now this total charge is I naught, and take this omega also outside, constant, and we have this minus sign here. So first I have put the lower limit just to accommodate this minus sign, and then upper limit. So cos omega into 0 minus cos, and the omega is equal to 2 pi by t. You know this relation, that angular velocity omega is 2 pi by t. So I put omega is equal to 2 pi by t into the upper limit of time is t by 2. So see what we get. See, cos omega into 0 is cos 0, that is 1, minus here t and t cancelled out, this 2 cancels this 2, we get cos pi, and cos pi is minus 1. So 1 minus minus 1 will give you 1 plus 1, and that is 2. So inside the bracket you get 2. So now it becomes equal to 2 I naught omega. So now the mean current represented by Im is equal to the total charge flowing in time t by 2 upon time. See, the current is charge flown upon time taken, and Q is 2 I naught upon omega. So 2 I naught upon omega into t by 2, and put the value of omega here, and you get this t and t cancelled, 2 and 2 cancelled, you get 2 I naught upon pi. So this is the value of mean current, and if you put the value of pi here and simplify, you will get 0.637 I naught, 0.637 I naught, and it is 63.7% of the peak current. And for mean AC voltage, see, this is mean current into resistance, and you will get 2 V naught upon pi, that is 0.637 V naught, or 63.7% of peak voltage. So that is the value of average or mean current. Now we are going to take another kind of average which is very important. It is called root mean square alternating current, or RMS value of AC, RMS value of AC. It is also called virtual or effective AC. See, a current always produces heating effect in a resistance. If current I is passing through a resistance R, then heat is produced, which is equal to I square RT. Now, I can be an AC current or a DC current. It is irrespective of that. So, if we can measure this heating effect given by this AC in a given time and compare it with a constant current which gives the same heating effect in same time, then that will be called its root mean square value or RMS value. So that's how we define it. Okay. So root mean square value or RMS value of AC is that steady current which would produce the same heat in a resistance in a time as produced by the actual AC in the same resistance and in the same time. Remember that it has to be same time and same resistance. So let us try to find out a relation for it. So let us assume that this current AC is equal to I naught sine omega t is passing in resistance R. Then heat produced in one time period will be equal to integration of I square R dt. See, you know that the relation for heat is equal to I square R time t, and since it is variable, so if the time is dt, then heat produced in small time will be I square R dt, and we want to find out the total heat produced in one time period. So integrate it from 0 to t. I hope you understand. So now the heat H will be equal to 0 to t. Place the value of current here from here. You get I naught sine omega t square R dt. and bring out the constants. So I naught square, r is also constant, and inside bracket you get sine square omega t dt. Now this I naught square r is constant, and inside bracket we have this term integration of sine square omega t. Now for one time period. Now the average value of sine square omega t for one complete cycle is 1 by 2. The average value of sine, see, the value of sine function or cosine function varies from plus minus 1 to 0, right? Now sine square, when you do sine square, then square of plus minus 1 is 1, and the minimum value is 0, and the average will be 1 plus 0 divided by 2. So the average value of sine square function or cos square function for one time period is 1 upon 2. So and since you are doing integration with time period, so the value from integration comes out to be T upon 2. So the total heat produced is I naught square R T by 2. Now by definition, this H is equal to the RMS current given by study RMS current. So it is I RMS square RT, and this is equal to, from here put the value, compare both the sides, and now what we get is, see, RT cancelled out this and take square root, then I RMS becomes equal to I naught upon root 2, peak current divided by root 2, and this is equal to 0.707 I naught, or 70.7% of peak current. Similarly, the RMS voltage is V naught upon root 2, and it is 0.707 V naught, or 70.7% of peak voltage. Now, when you have some AC supply, then it is only the RMS value which is given to you. If you have a 220 volts supply, then this 220 volt is VRMS. It is not the peak current. It is very important to understand that the RMS value of supply is always mentioned. If you have a 230 volt supply, it means the RMS value is 230 volt, not the peak voltage. Peak voltage is different from it. And now let us look at some numerical problems based on it. This is your NCERT problem, unsolved problem. So let us have a look. A circular coil of radius 8 cm and 20 turns is rotated about its vertical diameter with an angular speed of 50 radian per second in uniform horizontal magnetic field of magnitude 3 into 10 raised to the power minus 2 Tesla. So situation is clear that you have a circular coil and it is rotated about its vertical diameter and the magnetic field is uniform. So while rotating, it will be cutting these magnetic field lines continuously. The angle between area vector and magnetic field is changing continuously. So let's see what we have to find out. Obtain the maximum and average EMF induced in the coil, and if the coil forms a closed loop of resistance 10 ohm, calculate the maximum value of current in the coil and calculate the average power loss due to Joule's heating effect. So let us come to solution straight away. So radius is 8 cm, N is 20, omega is 50 radian per second, magnetic field is 3 into 10 raised to the power minus 2, and resistance is 10 ohm. Maximum induced EMF, that is peak voltage, is NAB omega. Put the value of N, 20, area is pi r square, So R is 0.08 meter, convert to SI unit, into magnetic field 3 into 10 to the power minus 2 into omega 50. Simplify it, you get 0.6 volt. So maximum induced EMF is 0.6 volt. Now the average induced EMF in one cycle is 0. See, for one cycle, for positive half and negative half, if you take average, it is going to be 0. So the average induced EMF for half cycle, that is mean AC voltage, is 2V0 upon pi, and this 2V0 is 2 into 0.6. From here, put the value of pi, it is 0.38 volt. And now peak current you have to find out. So peak current is V0 upon R, peak voltage upon 10, that is 0.06 ampere, or 6 into 10 raised to the power minus 2 ampere. That is the peak current. And now you have to find out the average power loss due to Joule's heating. So average power loss will be equal to IRMS square into R. And that is, put the value of IRMS, which is I0 upon root 2 square R, and the value of I0 you have just found out. So squaring it, square of 6 is 36, 10 to the power minus 2, 10 to the power minus 4, and resistance is 10 ohm, square of root 2 is 2, simplify, and it comes out to be 18 into 10 raised to the power minus 3 watt. And now one more problem, a board problem. An AC voltage is given by V is equal to 140 sine 314 T. It is connected across a resistance of 50 ohm. Find frequency of source, RMS current through the resistor. So here, compare this relation with standard value. Look at it. Standard equation. So you see that the value of V0 is 140 volt. Here omega is equal to 314 radian per second. So angular frequency or angular velocity is 314 radian per second. And you know that omega is equal to 2 pi nu, where nu is frequency. So 2 pi nu is equal to 314, or nu is equal to 314 divided by 2. Put the value of pi. This is 50 hertz. See, the supply of AC in India is at 50 hertz. In some countries it is 60 hertz, like in USA. Now peak current is peak voltage divided by R. Now peak voltage is 140 upon 50 ohm, that is 2.8 ampere. And RMS current is I0 upon root 2. So 2.8 divided by 1.41. This is nearly 2 ampere. So you can see that the peak current is much more than the RMS current, and peak voltage is much more than RMS voltage. So that is why AC gives you bigger shock. So with this we come to the end of this video. I hope it is useful to all of you, and in the next video we will carry out from here only.